Have you ever wondered what would happen if Mexico stopped waiting on the US and made its own trade moves? What if a new alliance started pulling in major players from Latin America and Asia and shifted the balance of power? Well, it's happening right now. And it could weaken America's grip on the region like never before. And with Trump pushing for another White House run, the timing couldn't be worse. Washington has controlled trade with Mexico through tariffs, pressure, and political deals, keeping the US in a dominant position for decades. But now, Mexico is looking elsewhere. They're cutting deals that could change everything. If this alliance gains momentum, the US could lose a key economic advantage, and the consequences won't stop at trade. So how deep does this go? What's the real agenda behind Mexico's move? And will Trump fight back? We'll break it all down. What's happening, why it matters, and how this could reshape power in North America. Mexico is making its own rules now, and the US might not like what's coming. Stay with us, because this is bigger than it looks. Trade between the US and Mexico has shaped both economies, but it hasn't always been smooth. One of the biggest shifts came with NAFTA in 1994, removing tariffs and fueling a surge in cross-border business. Factories, supply chains, and industries on both sides became tightly linked, making Mexico a key U.S. trading partner. Then came the USMCA in 2020, a deal meant to modernize trade by addressing digital commerce, labor rights, and manufacturing rules. While it kept many foundations of NAFTA, it also introduced stricter regulations, some of which favored U.S. interests. But trade hasn't been the only issue. U.S. policies on tariffs, immigration, and border security have sparked tensions, especially during the Trump administration. Tariff threats, trade disputes, and shifting policies have made Mexico rethink its reliance on the U.S. economy. And now, that rethink is turning into action. Mexico is moving to build new alliances outside of North America. The question is, will the U.S. fight to keep its influence? Or is this the start of a new trade order? Mexico is making a move that could shift global trade dynamics. A new alliance is forming, pulling in key partners from Latin America and Asia, including Brazil, Argentina, and South Korea. The goal? To expand trade beyond the U.S. open new markets and secure economic independence. By working with a broader network, Mexico is positioning itself as a central player in a trade system that doesn't revolve around Washington's influence. The strategy is clear: lower tariffs, streamline regulations, attract foreign investment. Mexico is betting that by diversifying trade, it can strengthen its economy while avoiding the political risks that come with being too dependent on one partner. But the bigger question remains: how will the U.S. react? If Mexico succeeds in shifting trade toward new allies, American leverage over its southern neighbor weakens. That could force Washington to rethink its own trade policies, or push back hard to keep control. This is a strategic shift, with high stakes for both sides. The U.S. isn't used to Mexico making moves like this, and that could set the stage for a serious clash. Mexico's trade alliance puts U.S. economic influence at risk, and Trump isn't likely to let that slide. His entire approach to trade has been about control, and this shift threatens the balance he worked to maintain. So how does he respond? Politically, Trump could use this to rally his base, painting Mexico's move as a direct attack on American jobs and industries. Expect speeches, campaign promises, and renewed pressure on trade policies that put America first. Economically, he has a few options. Tariffs are always on the table, making Mexican exports more expensive to force them back to the negotiating table. He could pressure U.S. companies to rethink investments in Mexico. He might even push for changes to the USMCA, ensuring any advantage Mexico gains from this alliance is countered by stricter trade terms. But these moves come with risks. Tariffs could drive up costs for U.S. businesses and consumers. Pressuring companies could backfire, leading them to shift investments elsewhere. And if Mexico strengthens its position with other economies, Washington's influence in the region could shrink even further. Trump will have to decide: push back hard and risk economic fallout, or adapt to a new trade landscape where Mexico isn't playing by old rules. Mexico's new trade alliance is reshaping regional influence. By strengthening ties with Brazil, Argentina, and South Korea, it's creating new economic pathways that don't center around the U.S. For Washington, this is a problem. The U.S. has long played a dominant role in North American trade. But as Mexico diversifies its partnerships, American leverage weakens. If these new alliances gain traction, the U.S. may struggle to maintain its economic influence in the region. This shift could also encourage other nations to rethink their trade strategies. If Mexico successfully builds a network beyond U.S. oversight, others in Latin America might follow, reducing Washington's ability to dictate regional policies. The bigger picture goes beyond just North America. If Mexico positions itself as a trade bridge between Latin America and Asia, it could attract new investments, money, and deals that might have otherwise gone to the U.S. This changes the balance of power in global trade. The U.S. can either adjust to this shift or fight to maintain control. But one thing is clear: Mexico is no longer waiting for permission to shape its economic future. Mexico's trade alliance has sparked mixed reactions. Some see it as a smart strategy to break free from U.S. economic control. Others worry about the risks of shifting too far from a major trade partner. In the U.S., the response has been divided. Critics argue this could hurt American jobs, especially in industries that rely on cross-border trade. Some analysts warn that Mexico's move might trigger economic retaliation from Washington, increasing tensions that could disrupt supply chains. Others, however, see this as a wake-up call for the U.S. to rethink its trade policies before losing more ground in Latin America. Media coverage has been extensive. Headlines are questioning whether this marks the start of a new trade order. Some outlets focus on Mexico's push for economic independence, while others highlight the potential fallout for American businesses. Economic analysts are split. Some believe this shift will create a stronger, more balanced trade system. Others predict increased friction between Mexico and the U.S. This has also made its way into Trump's political narrative. His supporters see this as another reason to push tougher trade policies, while critics argue that his past actions may have pushed Mexico toward this decision in the first place. With global markets watching closely, the real impact of Mexico's trade shift is just beginning to unfold. Mexico's trade shift is now a political issue. Trump and his allies see it as a direct challenge to U.S. influence, making it a key argument for tougher trade policies. This strengthens his push for stricter agreements, tariffs, and pressure on American companies to limit reliance on Mexico. At the same time, critics argue that Trump's own trade policies may have driven Mexico in this direction. The unpredictability of tariffs, economic pressure, and strained diplomatic relations have pushed Mexico to look for alternatives. If this move strengthens Mexico's position, other countries in Latin America could follow, reducing Washington's ability to control trade in the region. The bigger concern for the U.S. is long-term influence. If Mexico succeeds in building a broader trade network, it sets a precedent, showing that breaking away from U.S. dependence is possible. This could force Washington to rethink its trade approach, not just with Mexico, but with the entire region. Mexico's new trade alliance is more than just a shift in partnerships. It's a challenge to the U.S.'s economic influence. By strengthening ties with other markets, Mexico is building a path that doesn't rely on Washington's control. With Trump in office, his administration faces pressure to respond, whether through tariffs, tougher trade terms, or renegotiations. Washington's next move will be crucial in determining how much influence the U.S. can maintain. For businesses, this shift creates uncertainty. Higher costs, disrupted supply chains, and changing trade routes could affect industries on both sides of the border. Meanwhile, if Mexico's strategy succeeds, it may encourage other nations to follow the same path, reducing U.S. dominance in the region even further. Mexico's decision has already set a new tone in North American trade, and the outcome will reshape economic ties for years to come. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.